Let me tell you about this time when I was socially unbothered. So, this is meant to be expanding, so you can kind of picture yourself in this scenario. So, I'm at a dinner party in San Francisco. I just met the hostess, and I don't know anyone else there. And, I make some small talk with people when I enter the room, friendly, say hi. And then when we sit down, I engage the woman to my right. And I just kind of, say hey and ask her about her day. And she's pretty tight-lipped. She's not really giving me a lot to go off of, one-word answers here and there. And I know that could always mean that maybe she has social anxiety, or maybe she doesn't want to talk, or maybe she doesn't want to talk to me. So I kind of get the picture after talking with her for a few minutes, or at least trying to have a conversation. I simply understand that, okay, there's not a lot of energy here. There's not a lot of elaboration. So I'm going to simply, naturally redirect my focus, redirect my energy to other people at the table and, showing interest in learning their stories and seeing where the energy is. So I ended up exchanging contact information with many of the people there. And I do believe that I even connected on social media with the woman next to me, even though we didn't even really click. And years later, it's COVID at this time. I am living in New York and I see that she's also living in New York at that time. So without overthinking it, I get this random idea to just, it's a crazy time in life and the world. And I ask, hey, I'm in New York too. And I don't even think I had a direct ask. I just initiated the conversation by letting her know, hey, I'm in town. And then she got to say, oh, we should meet up. And I was a little surprised by it, but I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? Let's. And we ended up having a really great conversation, really great time. We were both in the career coaching space at that time. And then we ended up actually meeting up every week for months. And it became something that I know I really looked forward to. Months down the line, even when we were no longer both in New York, I was traveling, we maintained contact over WhatsApp. Not consistently like every week, but it kind of fades away a little bit. Maybe once a month voice notes, once every 3 months, 6 months. And at one point, we were talking about different social dynamics, and I had experienced a social rejection. And I was like, dang, it's kind of hitting me hard right now. And brought something up to me that changed the game. It was something that I kind of knew on one level, but her saying it really brought it to life for me. And what she says, Stephanie, when I first met you, I didn't like you. I thought, wow, who's this person who seems so confident and comfortable in her own skin? And you kind of intimidated me with your confidence, actually. And then, I'm glad that I got to know you because I've gotten to realize how much depth you have and how fun it is to get to hang out with you and connect with you. When she said that, it made me realize a really key thing, which is it's not always about winning people over when you first meet them or even over a prolonged period of time. It's about going where energy flows and letting the rest slide right off. So, back to that social scenario where abundance mindset. I was not focusing on, oh my gosh, this one person that's really tight-lipped. I wasn't making it about me. And actually, I got the feeling that it was possible that maybe she didn't really want to talk with me or engage with me, and maybe she didn't like me. And that was actually true at that time. However, can you imagine what if I handled the situation by trying harder and trying to engage her more? Or maybe, let's say, if she wanted to connect on social media, I'd be like, oh, I'm kind of surprised because you didn't really engage with me. That's giving too much energy and attention to the negativity, allowing it to grow and expand. And then you don't really have much of a chance later on of having that sort of rapport that gets to build. So, one of the morals here is to not take things personally, whether you've just met someone, whether it's over time. Some people take time to warm up to you, and some people never will. So, that's something that sometimes it's a lesson that we need to revisit because there can be certain social situations that throw us for a loop where maybe we think we have a dynamic established with someone and it kind of flips for a reason that we may not be aware of that they may not want to disclose. And the idea here is to maintain your curiosity, but to let yourself be more curious about things that are going well and things you want more of versus getting so curious about the things that you don't understand and that you don't like because they can always flip a switch. And let me give you actually another example of this because I think it's important to illustrate when we don't feed into the disconnection, how at a later point in time, it can either make a 180 or come back around if it was once there and then dropped off. So in this example, I was invited to lead a meditation session at a women's retreat years ago. And it was one of those situations I was really excited and I had a lot of creative agency and ended up leading a session that ended up being a lot more controversial than I thought it would be. And it resulted in some online hate. And the person who was so excitedly planning this with me distanced herself from me, even though we did work on together. And but I decided, instead of confronting her and saying, "Hey, I wish you would back me up here because it was partially your idea too," I was simply aware of, okay, this is a bit of a backlash. And it's not even about me. It was about what was going on in society at the time that was kind of in my opinion, over amplifying some things that were not really the problem. And certainly there was a learning experience for me to have greater sensitivity to, certain use of language and things like that. But no, at the time, let's be real, I did kind of take it hard because it was surprising. I was not used to that kind of backlash for a very innocently planned event. But anyway, yeah, I was aware, yes, she's distancing herself. And I mean, it could have been a natural thing because we were no longer working on the event. The event happened. And a lot was going on in the world at this time too. So instead of initiating a conversation with her, I trusted, okay, there's some distance, but there's also a lot of energy going on. So I decided to, work it out within myself as best as I could and, get curious about some of the feedback that I was getting without internalizing it as necessary, being this call out that some people like to do. Wow, this person's secretly a horrible person. Look what they did. It's like, no, we can do better than that. But anyway, then I want to say it was 5 years later. I am contacted by this very same woman, and she invites me to be a facilitator in an online learning app. And it's one of those situations where, this is a new income stream. And if hypothetically I had, called her out or illuminated the disconnection that I was seeing, then that acquaintance may not have come back around once everything had settled. And do you see how it's possible that she had that lingering idea of, ooh, the person who was kind of canceled in that context for a hot second? But then there was time and space from that experience. And then, you go on social media and you see, oh, look, this person has also built up thought leadership in this arena. And I'm a stand for confidence, mine and yours. So it's like no matter what happened, I tap into that and I help other people tap into that. So who better to help people feel confident on this new platform than myself that can be resilient from cancel culture. So anyway, she reaches out and I graciously accept, and it's been a long-term partnership. So this isn't to be confused with really close interpersonal dynamics where you say, oh, shove it under the rug and pretend like it didn't happen or like everything's fine. But this is more so when it comes to either brand new contacts or acquaintances that you have minimal touch points with, where I'm all for being really clear and directly communicating at times. But I hope that you've noticed in these couple of scenarios how noticing it without attaching weight to it and without amplifying it with a dialogue that ultimately would have bred even more disconnection versus bridging the gap. Because let's think about, what is your intention with the conversation? Would it to be, hey, would it be something along the lines of, oh, I'm right. Look, you're acting differently, and like shaming? Or would it be like, hey, I really want to be closer, but let's think about it. If you're acquaintances or you've only met once or not at all, there's nothing to save. There's nothing there. It's time to expand. and allow your focus to be redirected. And that doesn't mean that there's like an invisible line and you don't even look at them anymore. That's resistance. And we're not trying to resist anything or be graspy and reach after it. It again, just picture like an uncomfortable situation like that when it's with an acquaintance or someone that you maybe you want to build something with, but you really haven't yet. Let's be honest about it. Where you let it roll right off and you simply direct, it's not about direct your attention anywhere but there. Don't think of a pink elephant. No, it's like, okay, that is uncomfortable and you can acknowledge it and be at peace with it and lessen the turnaround time. So then other things are simply of more interest because you trust your perception of what is unfolded, taking on the ends of that person who's doing what feels like they're rejecting. You don't need to take on the emotional experience of feeling rejected or of being super proud and trying to compensate for it. It's like it actually doesn't need to impact you. So allow this to be a permission slip. Allow this to be a reframe that sometimes in some situations with new connection, having the confidence and deciding that you have the confidence to know that you know yourself and that you know your value and that other people having the faith that other people will know it either immediately or in time. And if they don't, then it's fine because abundance mindset. There are more people and some people are on the life trajectory of having fewer, closer, longer term relationships. Other people are on a life path where maybe there are shorter, deep connections. And, it's not always linear, it's not one way or another. And you may be in a season where you are ripe for building new friendships. So allow these stories if you have felt rejected. Just know that things can make a 180 or come back around once you let it go. All right, wishing you a beautifully connected day. Until next time.